But some of the stuff that we post on Facebook, oh my God, it's just utterly ridiculous. Some of the things that we record have no value. Some of the things that we share have no value. Will not elevate you, will not elevate your brother, will not elevate anybody. You know, we all walk around talking like we know so much and we've learned so much, and yet and still we are just as ignorant as we've ever been. As we've ever been. I mean, really, what is it going to take for us as a race of human beings to be so angry with the condition of our country and of our world and of this universe that we actually do something about it? And I tell you, it's not even that difficult. It's not even that hard to do something. It all starts with changing your mind. If you got one, if you still have one. You know, the Bible and many other religious texts talk about carnal minds and reprobate minds and all these things. And none of us even really know what that means. Because we're so entrenched in some belief system that has us so blinded to the reality of this illusion that we live in that we can't even begin to fathom that we have the power within ourselves to change our circumstances. And if we can change it for ourselves, we can change it for the world. Come on, y'all. There's a reason why we learn things about being on one accord and being on the same page and having a unified vision. There's a reason for that. Because if one of us fall, guess what? We all fall. We all fall. So we already have enough people who are operating with knowledge and power and doing what they know to do with that knowledge and power, no spiritual connection whatsoever. But we have, oh my God, an innumerable number of people who say they are spiritual. Yet we are not collective enough in our thinking. We are not united enough in our belief that we can even ignite a change in this world that we live in. So how powerful are you really? How spiritual are you really? Have you been in your synagogues and in your mosque and in your temples and your sanctuaries? Have you been in them for over, I'm just going to say 10 or 15 years, and that's being generous? What about you has changed since you started? What about your life has elevated since you started? What about you? Are you still walking around poor and stuck in poverty and lack and limitation? Or have you rose above your circumstances? You're responsible for you, but we are responsible for us collectively. So I'm responsible for your lack of elevation. I am. And so is everyone else. Because guess what, y'all? Whether you like it or not, we are all in this thing together. If you haven't risen above your circumstances, then I have something to do with that. And so does everybody else. They talk about the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, I come to tell you today that we have a whole lot of weak links. And they start at the very top. I'm sorry. I'm just so outdone with humankind. I'm just so outdone with the human race because I just don't get it. I just don't get it. How is it that we walk around talking about we love, I love this and I love that, and it's always this and that and never human beings, hardly ever. We love things more than we love people. And when I tell you that the reason I haven't been able to sleep these last couple of weeks, I just did a YouTube video about part of it earlier today. And then I come home from working out only to discover we got people all over the country talking, people who are are supposed to be leaders and in leadership roles and calling themselves spiritual men and women of the cloth or whatever. And you are like the worst examples. You are like not the way. You are like not the truth. And you certainly aren't shining any light. But that is a reflection on all of us. We must all hold ourselves up to the floor. I mean, come on, y'all. Really? Really? I was just telling somebody a little while ago when one of my kids somebody was asking or talking about why all these slave shows are coming back to life and are we glorifying them or whatever. And the reality, at least for me, because I try to recognize that what we live in is really not a reality. It's an illusion, and we have the power to actually change the shape of that illusion. We have the power to change the outpicturing of what we see. And so these slave movies, because the people who are making them and producing them and financing them are actually sending us a message that, you know, that level of bravery that it took for slaves to run away, to risk their lives, because that's all they had to risk. They didn't have money and cars and education and credentials and, you know, people in high places. They had none of those things to risk. So it was a lot easier for them to step out on this so-called faith walk and overcome their circumstances because they had nothing to lose. We, on the other hand, have everything to lose, or so we think. And even though we've been taught, those of us who grew up as traditional Christians, we've been taught about the story of Job and how Job lost everything. And oh my God, he actually reacquired everything he had and more. You know that story. And it ain't doing us a bit of good because we still are afraid to lose anything. And because of that fear, we will not risk anything. So yeah, the slave movies are coming back and they're being glorified, not because that was something to brag about, not because it's something that we want to re-experience. No, it's because the powers that be, the people who are financing the movie, want to remind you that when you set your mind on things that are above, you can overcome this stuff that is below. How much of a stretch is that, really? I tell you sometimes, I appreciate Facebook because it gives me the opportunity to connect with humans, even if electronically. But that's something that people who lived, let's just say 100 years ago, would have been overwhelmed to have. Oh my God, the ability to talk to their family. Just imagine if you were in slave days and Facebook was available. And Massa came and took your husband and took your kids to another plantation. But Facebook was available. And so while you couldn't see your kids, you couldn't watch them grow up necessarily in person, but you could see them on Facebook. Could you imagine? And here we have all this technology, all this interconnectivity, and we still walking around here with no power. Still walking around here with no power. And I know it's Friday. It's Friday evening, and maybe people are getting ready to get dressed and go out and have a good time, and you kind of don't want to hear what CeleXy has to say today, and that's all fine and good. But at some point, you're going to have to listen. You're going to have to wake up. You're going to have to rise up, and you're going to have to stay up. And you're going to have to consider the possibility of walking away from some things, knowing that if you walk away now, more will come to you. There is a scripture, and even though I'm not a traditional church goer anymore or Christian by any means, there is metaphor and allegory and parable in the Bible and many other religious texts that are so profitable if you understand how to apply them. And I'll tell you, I can't say that I know what the slaves were thinking back then, but if one of the scriptures they were privy to hear or read or even understand, if there was one, if it could have been the one where Paul says, to live is Christ, to die is gain. That right there in a nutshell is the reality that if you do what you know to do, if you do what you have the power to do, and you die doing it, you still win. And I'm going to just step out on a limb. And I like this look because it reminds me of Brother Malcolm. But I'm going to just step out on a limb and say that many of the people that we proclaim died for us, they knew it. They knew that if they stepped out on faith and do what they knew to do for the benefit of all, there was a possibility that they would die. And they still did it. And of course we know they died. But what we don't know is whether or not the spirit that once inhabited the mind of the Hugh body that it once occupied. And okay, let me say that again because some of y'all probably ain't, y'all like, what the hell is she talking about? If spirit never dies, if energy cannot die, it can only transform, then all of the wise sages and all of the wise prophets and all of the wise messiahs and all of the wise saviors that have gone on before us in the past, and maybe even in our future, they are still present with us today. They may be in a different body, a different gender, a different color, in a different part of the world with the same message. You think that's a coincidence? I think not. But yeah, we got to do better. We have to do better. We know for a fact that there are individuals operating in this world with knowledge and power and the wherewithal, the courage to actually do that which they say they're going to do. The missing link is that spiritual component. That spiritual component is so significant because it's that spiritual component that reminds us, that higher thinking mind I was talking about earlier today. It's that spiritual component that reminds us that we're all connected. And so that which you do to the least of them, you do to yourself. You do unto yourself. Jesus said, you do it to me. What he was trying to tell you is that when you step on even the least of human being, that which you would consider less than you, you are also stepping on him or yourself or that which created you. Yeah, I'm asking you to think. I'm asking you to use that beautiful brain inside that beautiful head and just really begin to think. The more we cut each other down, the worse things are going to be. The more we talk about stuff that we don't even have the capacity to understand. Because I'm going to just say this real quick just because I can. This whole issue with the homosexual community, and I know for a fact just about every single last one of us has someone in our family, if not multiple ones in our families, who live what they call the alternative lifestyle. And I'm going to just stretch out on a limb because I'm open to all types of possibilities. But just imagine if the last time your spirit inhabited a body, it was a man, a male body that it inhabited. And the next time it came into this lifetime, it was in a female body. So that the outer doesn't match the inner. That's just a possibility. I'm not saying that I know anything because I don't. But what I do know is that we all embody masculine and feminine principle. We all do. And it's right here in this triune mind encapsulated in this head. There's feminine and masculine principle at work all the time. All the time. So there are a myriad of reasons why someone may be a male in a female body or a female in a male body. But guess what? If you choose not to love that individual, you may as well not love yourself either. And if you want to kill that individual, you may as well kill yourself. Because that's essentially what you're doing. We're destroying everything because that's all we know to do. That's all we've been programmed to do. Destroy one another, divide and conquer. We destroy the world. We destroy nature. We destroy ourselves. We destroy our kids. That's all we know to do. But I'm here to tell you today that we do know how to do better. And I'm not even asking you to wait and do it tomorrow. You can start today. You can change your mind today. You can decide that, you know what, every time I look at somebody else doing something that I don't like, I'm going to see myself in that person. Every time I hear somebody saying something that I don't like, I'm going to hear myself in that person. Every time I see somebody that looks different than I do, thinks different than I do, talk different than I do, I'm still going to see myself in that individual. That's what love is. That is what love is. When you say you love yourself, then you have no choice but to love your fellow man. If you don't love your fellow man, then you are lying to yourself. And I, for one, I am so over this BS. Oh my God, I know I'm just going to keep saying the same stuff over and over again because obviously that's what it's going to take to get people to wake up, stand up, stay up, and be counted. If you want to change this world that we live in, change the way that you think. Because I will tell you this, and I don't proclaim to know everything, but I am open to just about every daggone possibility that exists in the universe. Because I'm that connected. If I were to tell you that there's just a handful of people who are equipped with the knowledge and the power and the wherewithal to act on that which they know, and the only thing that is missing is that spiritual component. That component that reminds them that we are all connected and we are all in this thing together. If I tell you it's just a handful is what, 5? If you got big hands, maybe 6 or 7. If I tell you it's just a handful at the top of the pyramid, right? Think of that triangle. If I tell you that it's just a handful at the top that know and do, but they're missing that spiritual component. And everything below that handful on the pyramid is the rest of us who walk around displaying a form of godliness, but lacking power. We lie to ourselves. We lie. We lie. Pastors and leaders and priests and elders and bishops, we lie. We lie. We lie to ourselves because we're at the bottom of the pyramid. The majority of us are at the bottom of the pyramid proclaiming power, proclaiming spirituality and godliness and all of that, yet we are being ruled by a godless consciousness. Huh. And then we want to cry about why people didn't vote and this and that, and we have no great candidates and blah, blah, blah. And we don't want to take responsibility for the candidates that we had to choose from. It is the consciousness That's where the power is. Even the scripture. See, we so caught up and don't even understand the very books of theology that we claim to know and preach and teach, but we don't even know it. We don't really know. We don't have a full essence. And I'm sorry the video is shaking because I'm so incensed right now. People, those of you who claim to be spiritual, to be holy, to be connected to the Father, to be connected through the Son, to be walking around here shining your light. If all of us at the base of the pyramid actually functioned on one accord, it would topple, it would flip the pyramid upside down. Hear me, because I'm telling you what I know. It would flip the pyramid literally upside down. There are some theories that the pyramids were built with levitation technique. Just like a rumor, every theory has some basis in truth. Even as a little girl, I used to say, you know, when they destroyed the Tower of Babel because God said that that the people were becoming too intelligent or whatever, and so to keep them from reaching heaven, he destroyed the temple and dispersed the people and differentiated their tongue and everything, so that, you know, basically they were divided so that they couldn't come together and be on one accord so that they could build that temple and reach heaven. Do you think that's something that really happened? Or is it symbolic of something that only happens inside here? Think about that, child. We are more powerful together than we've ever been apart. And I don't care if you're black, white, red, yellow, green, purple. I don't care. We have the power to change our circumstances individually and collectively. But it starts with you. You have to be willing to change your mind. Elevate. Please, let's elevate together. Let's change this world together. One person at a time, and then one day at a time. Remember, my people perish for lack of vision. And my people perish because of lack of applied knowledge. So I don't care how many books you read. Until you actually put that which you read into action, don't even talk to me. Put it into action. If you know it, do it. You know that saying, when you know better, you do better. Let's rise up, y'all. And you know I got a lot in me to say. I could say so much more, but I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to try to calm myself down. But people, this might sound like a cliche, but you need to be the change you want to see. I love you all. I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't even waste my time doing this. I love me, and I love you. And I love this world that we live in. I don't know about y'all, but I got grandbabies, and they're beautiful, and they're celebrating birthdays, and my mom is still with me. And there's so much living, so much life to yet be lived. But if we don't start changing the way that we think and changing the way that we act, there'll be no world to live in. I'm out.